This is Andrew Nemec with the Oregonian and Oregon Live. I'm joined by Pete Christopher. Been here for 2 days now of the opening. It's been really light work, frankly, for the Elite 11. A lot of walkthroughs, some short passes. We haven't seen a lot because they're going on air. There's no defense. But we have had a chance to talk to a number of athletes. Pete, who'd you talk to today? I know obviously an Oregon target, and what did he have to say about where he's at in his recruitment?
Yeah, caught up with KJ Hamler after practice today. Had some great things to say about Oregon. Drew some of his own comparisons between Michael James, D'Anthony Thomas, other speedy little slot receivers. He's very high on Matt Lubick, the coach who's recruiting him. Has not planned an official visit yet to Oregon, but does plan to get there officially at some capacity. He holds an offer from a ton of schools, Michigan State and Oregon being chief among them.
He's a really talented receiver, and it looks like a guy that not only, you see guys and they have a top 5 that includes Oregon, it actually looks like Oregon's among his favorites and could very well land him. Of the 20 to 25 significant targets that Oregon's looking at this week, he's maybe chief among them as far as most likely to commit, so definitely one to watch. Kind of a D'Anthony Thomas, Charles Nelson blend. Definitely going to play that inside receiver role, and you kind of have, I think Oregon fans probably have fantasies of Dylan Mitchell on the outside, obviously a huge spring game with 2 touchdowns, and then Hamler on the inside, and maybe even Tyjon Lindsey on the inside, breaking ankles and making plays. Yeah, a lot of speed. I talked to Tyjon Lindsey. He gave a top 5. Oregon was in that group. He really likes Oregon. Said he's built a relationship with D'Anthony Thomas to the point that they've gone beyond Oregon. They now talk almost on a weekly basis about football in general. Obviously, Nebraska, Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn, all going to be in the mix for Tyjon, but a 5-star wide receiver that's seriously considering Oregon, and really his idol and a guy that's been mentoring him for years now is a former Duck. So you got to feel good about that. The other guy I talked to was yesterday. It was Trey McKitty, a 4-star receiver from IMG Academy in Florida. It's a long way, but a lot of people think it's down to Auburn and Oregon. In fact, one of our writers in our family of newspapers talked to a source who said they thought it was 50-50 between Auburn and Oregon. That goes against kind of what we'd heard for the last month, that it was really Auburn. It had really shifted towards Auburn. So his commitment's going to be one to watch. Had a chance to talk to him. Really likes Oregon. He's built a relationship with Coach Osborne. Going to be interesting to see. On the Elite 11 side of things, separating from Oregon for everybody who's watching, what did you see from the Elite 11? Again, no defense.
Yeah.
They're basically doing walkthroughs, but did anybody really stand out to you?
It's tough. So I talked to Tommy DeVito yesterday, and they told me that last year the coaches kind of killed the Elite 11 quarterbacks, ran them through the woods, gave them a way to vest it. They made a point this year to kind of go easier. So the first 2 days of Elite 11 work has really just been walkthroughs, like you said. I would say that Dylan McCaffrey has probably stood out to me, not only because he's 6'5", but he throws a clean deep ball. Of the deep balls that we were able to see today,
right,
he certainly stood out to me. Tate Martell looked very good on the move. Other than that, I think there's a whole clump of people there waiting to separate themselves, and maybe they do in 7-on-7.
Yeah, Tommy DeVito stood out to me in that he throws a really catchable ball. Doesn't exactly throw a laser, doesn't have the cannon arm that you see from a Hunter Johnson or even a Tate Martell, even though he's a smaller guy, but throws a really nice ball. The guy that stood out to me the most, though, in terms of tools, is Hunter Johnson from Clemson. I talked to an assistant coach at the Elite 11 who said he really stood out as a guy who has all the tools. He's the A1 quarterback of this group. The other guy that I was really impressed with is Jack Sears, who's the only uncommitted guy here. He's supposed to be a guy who's a dual threat quarterback, and yet you see him out here and he looks as good as anybody under center. That'll be really interesting to kind of follow and see where he ends up choosing. I know he has a top 4 of UCLA, USC, Duke, and Utah. So it'll be really interesting to see how things go with that. I think that's a wrap for day 2 of the Elite 11/opening. We'll be back with more of the entire roster tomorrow. Thank you.